You ready?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1, record.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 78 of the Pokemon Snapshot. How are you doing tonight, Josh?
I am good, except you had to pull me away from God of War to record this episode. And in fact, we're recording 2 episodes tonight, so you're pulling me away even longer.
Yes, due to the Thanksgiving season and we missed him last week, we decided let's just record 2 tonight. Actually, next week's going to be our Christmas episode.
And I'm glad we timed it to give Thanksgiving its due, so that we're not like, I don't want to step on Thanksgiving's toes. There's some people in my neighborhood who have already put up Christmas decorations, and I want to go like light their house on fire.
I mean, to be honest, the only reason it is the next episode is because we are recording 2 tonight, and I thought that'd be an easier one to record than another very plot heavy episode.
Yeah. And I'm joking about being pulled away from God of War. I'm happy to be here. But I'm like 30 hours into God of War, and I feel like I'm like not quite halfway through.
I am only about 9.5 hours into God of War because then a little game called Pokemon came out. So I am about almost the same amount of time into Pokemon.
Nice.
Though with Pokemon, it's a lot easier to play because I can play it while my family's around because I can it's on the Switch. God of War is I can only play at nighttime.
Yep, same. I play, and when I play at nighttime, I mean I play for like 6 hours at night. last night I played from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Yes, and then he texted me that, oh no, I forgot to do the script. I
was supposed to do the scripts for these episodes last night, and as I was going to bed at like 2, I was like, oh no, I forgot to do something. So I spent like half my day today writing the scripts.
I'm really glad you're enjoying God of War. I'm really enjoying the part I play too, though. I've hit this point, and a lot of reviewers it's kind of this middling, the slowdown area. I'm sure I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm sure you know what part I'm talking about.
It doesn't last for very long. I think I know the part you're talking about. It doesn't last for very long, and then it changes like a lot.
Okay.
And you've not gotten to that point yet, and I don't want to spoil it at all. But I think I texted you and said the story of God of War went away I was not expecting in like a good way. So yeah, I'm excited for you to keep playing, and I'm sure you'll finish Pokemon first. Which I feel like the new Pokemon is also a big game, so it might be like, I don't know how many hours it's going to take you to beat it, but it's going to be quite a few.
I don't know. I looked on how long to beat, and it's sitting at 23 hours for the new Pokemon, which is honestly kind of short. Most Pokemon games are about 35 hours.
Okay,
but it also says main story plus extras is about 35 hours, so I'm going to guess about 35 hours. We'll see. Right now, so far in Pokemon, I have beat 2 gyms. I have beaten 2 Titan Pokemon, and I am going after the second base of the Team Star. And he kicked my butt twice. I realize it's the poison one, and I don't have a Pokemon to counteract poison.
Oh no. Have to be out there grinding.
Yeah, so I looked up. I think I am going to go find a Ralts, which is one of my favorite psychic Pokemon.
Cool.
And gonna pick up one of those so I can get Ralts, Kirlia, Gardevoir, and have it be a mainstay on my team. Because you asked me who my team is, and I think only a couple of those people are still on my team.
Yeah, that was like a day or 2 ago.
Yeah, it's just rotating. But no, I'm really enjoying Pokemon. I will, the elephant in the room, yes, it does not run well.
Yeah, that's what I read, and I'm hoping, because I told you I'm probably not going to get it until like Christmas. I'm hoping they've patched it or something before then. But honestly, I don't think Game Freak has any incentive to even care about its performance, because from what I read, this had the most pre-orders out of any Pokemon game ever. So it's not like they have any incentive to care about the performance, because people are still going to buy it, myself included.
Yeah, I think it might have just been it had the most pre-orders out of Japan.
Oh, well, I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, so if you're like me and you've been playing God of War, I think it's great. All the criticisms that, like the general criticisms that people had of the first game, they address like tenfold. Like the enemy variety, there's just like more than I can count. Like tons and tons of different enemies, tons of different mini bosses that are different. So yeah, I've very much been enjoying it. And we were talking about it in the Discord. Kate said that she just loves like wandering around and grinding, and I'm the same way. Like I think the reason I'm less than halfway through the story is just because like I do all the side missions before I move on with the story.
Yeah, I am definitely the same way. And I am going to let people know the first 5 minutes, if my audio was really loud, I'm sorry. For some reason, my microphone turned my record level to maximum. So
Oh.
I hope I'm not yelling in all of your faces. I have
Or
turned it down.
eardrums.
Yeah, so it should be a lot better. I know I have a loud voice, so hopefully this is better. And I will have to mess with the audio to see if it sounds horrible or way too loud.
Yeah, it'll be okay. I
So,
love the sound of your voice, so
well, thank you. But not when I'm yelling at you. That's not great.
well
Uh,
that's when I love it the most.
okay, let's go on to some Pokemon news. So, obviously, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet just came out. We're not going to talk about that. We just talked about that. The big Pokemon news is Ash has finally become the best Pokemon trainer in the world.
After what, 25 years, 30 years, 25
Yeah.
years?
Well, let's see, 97,
Yeah, so it'd be 25.
25, almost exactly 25, I think. So
Way to
yeah,
go, Ash.
he is just so because and this is in Japan. This has not aired in the United States yet or outside of Japan, but the final season of Pokemon Journeys arc has been all about him training for the. They had like 8 trainers from all the different regions that are supposed to be the best in the world. Ash is
Hmm.
representing Alola because, spoiler alert, he won that league.
Hmm.
And then he ends up winning the whole thing. So people are speculating that maybe this is finally the end of Ash's story,
Be the end of an era.
the end of an era. So it's interesting. We will get there in 30 years, but hopefully,
Yeah. Oh,
maybe
we'll be retired by the time we get there.
retired from our actual jobs, but we'll still be doing this.
Oh yeah. I do my real job so I can do this in my spare time.
Yeah. All right, so let's go on to our question of the week. So, our question last time was, what type of collections do you have? And we had a few answers. Manhunter said, I collect a lot of cards in Marvel Snap, which I am still playing, by the way. Really loving that game. He said, I just passed 500 in the Avatar thing. I really like how the season reset. It's a good catch up feature for newer players. Plus, I get a few extra experience to level up cards. I collect Magic the Gathering cards at an unhealthy rate, and as a family, we collect board and card games for our weekly game night. Um, I
Nice.
have never gotten into Magic the Gathering. My friend tried to teach me. I have played like when they were on the Xbox. They had the game come out yearly, and I've played those. And I
Yeah.
feel like it'd be a game I would like, but yeah, it's expensive to get into.
Yeah.
So, and also, I love card and board games. In fact, I'm staring at my stack of board games right now. And as Kyrie's getting older, we're starting to play more. We can get a little more into them. A few weeks ago, we played the Ticket to Ride First Journey. So it's the kids' version of a Ticket to Ride.
Nice.
And they actually do a really good job of making it fun for kids and adults. Um, all right, going on. Kate Davis says, I collect a lot of things: scarves, Pokemon cards, anything Cubone, stationery sets, fancy pins, and cool rocks. Anything which catches my eyes. My husband collects amiibos and Transformers. I definitely also collect mugs.
Nice. I I respect collecting the pens and the stationery sets because it's just the teacher in me just loves office supplies.
Oh yeah, in fact, one of my coworkers brought a whole thing of pins from. She's like in her doctorate, but she didn't like the pins, and we were like piranhas going at them.
The state of Alabama for once did something right for education and they increased the amount of money we get to spend for our classroom to $900. So I'm about to go just nuts on some office supplies.
And then Jeremy Davis, who is her husband, said Amiibos, Transformers, and anything related to Mega Man.
Nice.
Metal Droid said, well, excluding Pokemon cards because I think a majority of Pokemon fans collect cards. I also love Star Wars stuff. I haven't collected things in a while, but for many years I collected Star Wars action figures. But with the price of toys now, I just enjoy what I have collected to this point. Also, don't forget the quarters with all the states and parks on them. So I believe this is still hanging in my parents' house. It's not the quarter with all the state. Well, I guess the states. Yeah, what you remember that, Josh?
Yeah, my grandmother had them. She collected them all.
Yeah, when they were coming out, my mom would go to the bank. She would get two of each of the quarters, and we have a map, and we put the quarters in, so we have a complete set.
Nice.
So I guess if I ever need $10, I just have to go to my parents' house.
Yep.
Because that is what they're worth, $10. Well, they might be worth more. Who knows? But yeah, I have a set of those too. Patrick Drawn says, I collect lots of hats. Got a massive collection in my room. I think it's hats. I don't. He used the baseball cap emoji, so I don't know if he collects specifically baseball caps or just hats.
He's got like a 10-gallon hat next to like a
a bowler derby,
a bowler hat, a fez. He
There's
just collects
lots.
all different types of hats.
A bonnet.
A visor. Okay,
Is a tiara is a tiara a hat?
I don't think a tiara counts as a hat. It's more like a what would you call that? An adornment? I don't know.
This is gonna go on tangent. I watch a podcast where they do video game 20 questions, and they haven't asked this in a while, but they would ask, "Does your character wear a hat?" And they quit asking that question because the person who runs the podcast is always realize, if your character's an astronaut, is an astronaut helmet a hat?
Mm-hmm.
Is a crown a hat? So then they quit asking that because it wasn't as black or white as they thought it was.
Right.
And then Jesse, my wife, said, "Dogs, if you'd let me, cute knickknacks."
I'm the one that collects dogs over here.
Yeah, you're the one who collects dogs.
We didn't record last week, so I don't think I talked about this on the last episode, but my wife and I had to put one of our dogs to sleep about a week and a half ago, the first one that we've had to put to sleep together, and that was Marge. So Marge has been up here with me several times when I've recorded. You've probably heard me talk about her a bunch, but we had to put her to sleep. She got like super aggressive cancer in her mouth, like on the roof of her mouth. And Chelsea found it on Saturday, and we had to put her down the following Wednesday because it just like was just eating through the roof of her mouth. So that was pretty terrible.
So that also reminds me, that happened to you. Then God of War came out in the beginning of that game.
Oh yeah. So this isn't. Is that a spoiler if I say that?
It's in the first 5 minutes.
So the very first thing that happens in the new God of War game is Atreus's wolf dies, and spoiler alert, I bawled like a baby when it happened. I was like, "You've got to be joking me." We put her down like that afternoon, and I got the game and started playing it later that night, and that was like the first thing that hit in the game, and I was like, "Oh no!" And then I cried, but it helped with the whole processing thing because margins.
It's funny in things like this because I feel like I'm more attached to a dog than I am a human. So,
Yeah.
one of the shows I watched in October is called Big Shot. It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
it's about John Stamos. He gets fired from the NCAA coaching basketball for throwing a chair. He goes and coaches an all-girls at an all-girls school. It's the only place that'll take him. Season 1 is him being all rough and gruff, but by the end of the season, he realizes he loves these girls, and he actually turns down a job to go back to college because he loves the girls so much. So season 2,
Ted Lasso. It's like Ted Lasso for kids.
So season 2, there's a whole arc where there's a wildfire because they live in California, and they're using the school as a safe zone. And one of the principal's son is dating one of the girls, and he's like going crazy because his he was at school when they were told to go there. He didn't get a chance to go home. His dog's not there, and so him and the girl try to drive. Of course, their car is going the opposite way of everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're having so he just gets out of his car and starts running. There's fire everywhere. He's having trouble breathing. So his mom, the principal, comes, saves him, whatever. At the end of the episode, he goes back and it shows them pulling up to the dog, and he opens the door and the dog runs out. And I'm like bawling, and I'm holding Zoe. She's like looking at me, and I'm like, it's okay. Like this dog is the first episode this dog showed up on, and it like
it's because animals like that are helpless. Like people, you be around people long enough, like choosing to do stupid stuff, and you just grow numb to it, and you're like, okay, well they're just stupid. But dogs are just innocent. Animals are just innocent.
If the kid would have like died trying to go after the dog, yes, I might have cried during the episode, but like
oh no, I'd have been like, you're so stupid going into the burning woods. Like you're so dumb. That would have been my reaction.
Okay, let's lift this up a little bit. I'll talk real quick. Jessie also says she collects cute knickknacks. I told her the other day, I'm lucky I have her and the girls, because I feel like if I was working the job I do, making the money I do, and living by myself, my apartment or house would be just full of useless stuff.
Oh, so many knickknacks.
Yeah, I would have those cool statues you see, every cool Lego set. Yeah,
I like that. I like the humble brag about how much money you have, about how much money you make.
I mean, I wasn't trying to brag. That's why living on an income that's able to support more than one person to just one person. So
you don't get 3 months off a year though, like I do. I'm currently on Thanksgiving break right now, just not even caring a little bit, like not even a little bit.
Okay, let's go into our next section, which is answers from Kay, because we asked about why South Korea bans certain episodes because of Japanese stuff. Mm-hmm. And she said a lot of Eastern Asian countries have issues with Japan for the same reason. France has issues with Germany. Wars, war crimes, and a long history of violent conflict.
It's par for the course, I feel like, for most of the world.
And speaking with, places having issues with Germany, I'm going back. Another thing, I watched this yesterday. There's a new documentary on Disney Plus called Mickey Mouse, A Story of a Mouse. And it's real interesting. And how this ties in is the part where they're talking about, how Disney helped with World War II. Mm-hmm. And how Disney actually made the commercials or the training videos for the Army and all that to help out with the Army. And mm-hmm. How Mickey Mouse was everywhere showing patriotism.
Right. I thought it was going to go the other way and say that like they were all up with the Nazis. Well, it's crazy how many just established name brand things they were that guy was a Nazi.
Well, and I've known about there's a Donald Duck cartoon from the 1940s where he's working in a factory building missiles for the Nazis, mm-hmm. and he has a swastika on his arm, and he's going "Hail Hitler" every time he sees a picture of him and all that. And then at the end, it finds out he's dreaming, and Donald's wearing a full United States pajamas. But okay, so let's continue on. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at Pokemon Snapshot, or send us an email at thepokemonsnapshot@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page, so look us up there as well. Also, leave us a rating on your listening app of your choosing, so other Pokemon fans just like yourself can find the podcast. All right, Josh, I think we're finally ready to get into the episode.
Let's do it. And you better give the title in parentheses a good go of it.
Okay, so this week's episode was called All Fired Up, or as it was known in Japanese, Fire, Pokemon League Opening Ceremony.
Love it.
It aired on December 10th, 1998 in Japan, and on October 23rd, 1999 in the United States. All right, Josh, let's get into the episode.
Let's jump into All Fired Up. And as the episode begins, Team Ash has finally made it to the Pokemon League at Indigo Plateau. And let's see if something actually happens this episode. Spoiler alert, it does not. The narrator says Ash is handling the moment of finally making it to the Pokemon League with quiet dignity. And what he means by that is Ash freaks out and screams loud enough that it makes Togepi cry. Misty and Ash discuss his excitement, but Brock does nothing but poop all over Ash's party. And we're talking like Chipotle and a whole pot of coffee pooping on the party.
Yeah, and I would just say his exact words were, he's confident now, but wait until he gets a look at the competition.
They arrive in town to find lots of Pokemon fans, all of whom Ash assumes are there for him, which is hysterical to me. His delusions know no bounds. Team Ash discovers that the real reason that the fans are there are because of the Pokemon League torch coming through town, kind of like for the Olympics, they carry the torch and they light the big torch for it. They do the same thing for the Pokemon League. It turns out that the flame on the torch comes from the fire of a Moltres. Ash somehow uses the Pokedex to scan a Moltres, even though there isn't one there, which I did not know you could do. He basically says like, "Hey Siri, tell me about this Moltres," or "Hey Dexter," whatever his name is. So I'm going to need an explanation for that one.
So, unlike in the games, the Pokédex is just a digital encyclopedia, so it isn't scanning the Pokemon, but you can look up information on the Pokemon. Though what doesn't make sense is it has info on Moltres and not Gengar, and that makes no sense.
0 sense.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Ash says he wants to catch the Moltres and train it, and Misty says that'll work about as well as him training his Charizard.
All right, I do have a fun fact about Ash catching Moltres, which I know you want to hear.
I do.
So this episode marks the first of a very rare instance of a main character that is not Team Rocket showing interest in catching a legendary Pokemon because he's dreaming of catching Moltres one day while he watches the torch. The next time this would occur would not be until episode 40 of Pokemon Journeys, which is 1,051 episodes later.
Wow.
So one day we'll get there.
When we're drawing our pension.
I'm very interested. Take a guess. How many years do you think that would be if we did one episode a week, but we know we'll never get there?
One episode a week?
Yeah.
So what's essentially 1,000 divided by 52? I don't know. It'd take us
20 years.
20 years. I'll be 52.
Yeah, so when we get to this episode, if we don't miss a week, so let's give or take 5 years. So we'll say 25 years.
Okay.
There we go.
In 25 years, there will be whoever takes over after Ash is the main character. They will just then be becoming the Pokemon champion.
Yes. Also, during the scene we were just talking about, Brock also says the flame is supposed to inspire trainers and Pokemon who compete in the Pokemon League, and that being one of the torchbearers is a huge honor. This was different in the Japanese version because in the Japanese version, he says that the flame is a way to ask God to watch over the Pokemon trainers who compete, which I think is interesting because Japan isn't known as having a large Christian population.
And the United States is.
Yeah, well, you know why they take out the dub, we have to make sure, they try to take anything like that out of shows, but it's just weird that, they would say specifically, large G God.
Yeah. It is strange.
I don't know why I said large G. Capital G.
Well,
you knew what I
large
meant.
It didn't even phase me. It didn't even phase me.
A capital G God. It's just like, Japan has a very low percentage of Christians.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we'll talk about Japan and Christmas next episode.
Okay. Ash approaches the guy carrying the torch and says he'll take it from there, which is just so in character for Ash. You cannot say that the writers don't have a good grasp on Ash's ineptitude, because they do. And honestly, just the stones on this kid to go up and say, "All right, guy, I'll take it from here." Officer Jenny shows up and says to back off or she'll police brutality him. And then a dude that looks like Santa Claus shows up and says to let Ash carry it. Ash asks if he's Santa, and I swear to you that I wrote that joke before Ash said that in the show. I'm not sure how to feel about having the same thoughts as Ash either, so maybe I do need to take a break from this show. I'm starting to think like him.
So honestly, Ash is lucky that Officer Jenny or any of the other police officers didn't just tackle him to the ground as he approached.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could you imagine if that happened to the Olympic torch? Someone just starts running up to the person running it. Like, they would be taken down faster than you can say Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, as you said, Ash asks if he's Santa, but come on, Ash, you have literally met Santa Claus.
He has short-term memory. He has like the memory of Psyduck.
It's a little better in the Japanese version. He just asks who the old geezer is, and I'm actually not sure if that is better. That's just rude.
So Santa turns out to be Charles Goodshow, president of the Pokemon League Torch Committee, and I can't believe they need a whole committee for this. Like, is the committee just this one guy sitting at like a long table, like at the head of the long table? Does he get a salary for this and a corner office? How does it work? Why do they need a whole committee for the torch? And I'm not going to call him by his real name. I'm going to call him Santa because it's funnier. Santa lets Ash carry the torch because apparently there's a rule like you have to be competing in the tournament to carry it, which makes no sense, but whatever.
All right, and when Charles Goodshow introduces himself, Misty flat out says, "You don't look like a president."
I always appreciate how straightforward Misty is.
Yeah, so I'm guessing if he does get a salary, it's not very big.
He looks like someone that's been following the Grateful Dead around since like the early 60s, and they didn't realize that Jerry died like 30 years ago.
Also, you have to feel bad for the guy carrying the torch. This punk 10-year-old kid just walks up and says, "I want to carry the torch." And then the guy loses his job that he has probably dreamed about his whole life.
This guy came from Viridian City and made his way all the way up. And like the whole, like he's been dreaming of doing this, and the whole town like had a parade for him because now he gets to carry the torch all the way. And some little D-bag 10-year-old kid from Pallet Town, from Pallet Town, Kanto, comes in and steals his job away.
Which, if you remember back when Tyler and I used to do that, we determined that Pallet Town is the Alabama of the Pokemon world.
I know. Imagine, like, it'd be like, kind of like when, like someone like everyone expects them to become president of the United States, but then someone from Alabama comes in and just steals the show. It's like when Hillary Clinton in 2008 thought she was going to be the Democratic nominee, and then Obama came out of nowhere and just took it, and she was bitter the whole time. And then she lost to Trump. So it's like, I mean, he's basically like somebody from Alabama ran for president. So where were we? Ash begins carrying the torch with everyone else following him in a van. So like he's running, and like Santa and Officer Jenny and Brock and Ash and all the Pokemon are just like following him in this van.
You mean Brock and Misty?
What did I say?
You said Brock and Ash.
Oh, my bad. Brock and Misty are all in the van, and they're just following him. It's like Santa's hippie van. Meanwhile, Team Rocket watches them from their balloon. And obviously they plan to steal the flame. They don't even spend time in the show explaining it. They're like, yeah, we're about to steal this flame. And probably some Pokemon too. As Ash is running with the flame, the road explodes and the van and everyone else fall into the crater. Team Rocket shows up and Meowth attacks Ash with his claws, causing Ash to throw the torch, which seemed kind of like an odd reaction to me. Like maybe try to hit them with the torch, but he just like football throws it as far as he can.
I mean, when he's throwing this torch, Ash is like looking at the torch like, "Oh no, look, there it goes." I'm like, "Ash, you just threw it."
Yeah, like, bro. Meowth catches the torch, but he is engulfed in flames. James, in a move of utter genius, sends out Victory Bell, a plant Pokemon, to put out the fire, and as you would expect, it also goes up in flames. Ash uses Squirtle to put out the fire against his better judgment, but an ungrateful Team Rocket steals the flame anyway and escapes in their balloon, all while making just god awful fire puns.
And Ash even says as he is going to that he's going to regret doing this as he tells Squirtle to put out the flames, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was. Santa says, "Don't even worry about it, brah," and begins unzipping his tracksuit. Uh, for some reason, Santa has an extra flame inside of a jar in his jacket. So basically, the episode could end here. There's, I mean, there's no. It doesn't matter that the flame has been stolen because he had a flame in his jacket the whole time. He was real sketchy about pulling it out of his jacket, though.
Yeah, and that does not seem like a safe place to keep the extra flame.
Yeah, like this could burn the entire world. You're gonna keep it in a glass jar in your jacket.
I'm pretty sure they do the exact same thing with the Olympic fire for the torches.
Oh, for sure. They just light a guy on fire and he has to run all the way all the way to the site and light the thing before it kills him. It's more exciting than the actual Olympics. Team Rocket are in their balloon, and the flame is about to go out. But Meowth finds a knob on the bottom and turns it up, but it explodes and it burns them all. There was like a far away shot right as he turns it, like the camera, it cuts to a camera that's like way far away, and all you see is like the flame shoot up inside their hot air balloon, which I thought was a pretty great shot.
Yep, and then as their balloon is blowing up, it does go to a commercial break, so we are going to go into our Who's That Pokemon segment. All right, our Who's That Pokemon for this week is Moltres, who in Japanese is known as Fire.
just fire.
Just Fire.
Well, okay.
I mean, again, and I'm pretty sure I've said this many times when you get a weird name like that. Remember, fire isn't a Japanese word, so
Yeah.
it sounds more exotic to them than it does to us.
I guess so.
Some basic information on Moltres. It's number 146 in the Pokedex. It is a fire flying type, but it does have a Galarian form, which is a dark and flying type, and I have a picture down below for you.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, I
I would pee all over myself if that thing came swooping down at me.
It is 6'7" for both types. Its weight is 132.3 pounds for the Kanto version and 145.5 pounds for the Galarian version. And its category, which very rarely don't change, but for this one, the regular version, it's known as the Flame Pokemon, and the Galarian version is known as the Malevolent Pokemon.
That's strange.
Yeah, and it does not evolve. All right, some origins on Moltres. Its name. Moltres is a combination of molten and trace, which is Spanish for three, indicating that it is the bird in the trio of the Kanto legendary birds. It is the third. It is a bird too, but it's the third. I can't read. It may also derive from molt. Its Japanese name, fire, is literally fire.
Literally fire.
What is Moltres based off of? Moltres seems to be based on the legend of firebirds such as the phoenix, the Slavic firebird, or the Benru. It may also be based on the vermilion bird of the Chinese four symbols, which represents the element of fire in the direction of south. In addition, it may be based on a heron because of their similarities in body shape. Galarian Moltres appears to resemble a cormorant. Mm-hmm. Its ability to make opponents fatigued with its aura may allude to burnout, a psychological condition of which one of the main symptoms is exhaustion. Its shiny coloration is similar to Cantonian Moltres' regular coloration. All right, Moltres' biology. Moltres is a large avian Pokemon with golden plumage. It has long flowing head crest and a billowing tail, both made of reddish, orange, and yellow flames. Additionally, its wings are also shrouded in fiery plumage. Has a long, thin neck, a pointed brown beak, and a small triangular eyes. Its thin brown legs have feet that have 3 forward-facing toes and 1 backward-facing toe. It has short talons. Moltres sheds embers with every flap of its wings, creating a brilliant flash of flames. By dipping itself into the magma of an active volcano, this Pokemon can heal itself. It migrates from the south with the coming of spring and is said to bring an early springtime to cold lands. It needs to bring it to Michigan.
Dude, it's been cold in Alabama too. It's been like 30 during the day, which I'm all here for it. I love the cold so much more than the heat.
Oh, I've always said I'd rather shovel snow than mow my yard any day.
Yep, I feel that. The the Farmer's Almanac says it's supposed to be like a cold and snowy winter, so I'm here for it.
At work, we have this guy, the executive assistant to like the CEO and CEO.
Uh-huh.
He moved from Florida for this job.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, and I always wear just like a short sleeve polo shirt. I mean, you've known me for
Oh yeah.
just the outfit I wear to work. And I was walking
Uh-huh.
in the hall one day. He goes, I don't understand how you can wear short sleeves. And I just explained, I'm always hot. And I go, you think this is cold? This is nothing. Has anyone told you about the polar vortex we had a few years ago? And I go, it got to negative 40 degrees. And I still went and ordered an iced coffee.
Well, like, what do you do when it's like, can you even walk outside when it's negative 40 degrees?
So the schools were canceled. I still had to go to work. As long as you can get to your vehicle, you're fine. It's just, you don't want to be outside for very long.
Yeah.
All right, continuing with Moltres. There have been stories of Moltres using its wings to assist those lost in the mountains. Moltres is rarely seen, and Generation 1 Sky Attack was its signature move. In Galar, Moltres has a similar build but a drastically different color scheme. Its body is primarily black with scarlet highlights and bright blue eyes. Its scarlet beak is hooked at the top and leads to markings that run down its front and behind its head. Its feet are also scarlet with black talons. Its wings, crest, and tail are mostly black, with the crest having an extra curl of the front and the tail being split in two. And all 3 of these features a magenta energy that earns it the name of its Cantonian counterpart. Its body apparently feels lukewarm to the touch.
Oh.
Who got close enough to touch the thing?
Well, we see what happens later in this episode.
The sinister energy that blazes from within its body is so oppressive that most Pokemon can't even approach it. Galarian Moltres attacks by spreading its wings wide to unleash an energy and a powerful aura that attacks the mind of its foe, inflicting deep fatigue as it burns away their energy from within. The aura has the power to consume the spirit of its victims, reducing them to burned out shadows of themselves.
So it's like a Dementor.
Yeah, pretty much. It is said to have a haughty personality and a calm demeanor. It appears in the Crown Tundra once every few decades to reach Dying Tree Hill. Galarian Moltres is the only known Pokemon capable of learning the move Fiery Wrath. Alright, some Pokedex entries. Red and Blue says, known as the legendary bird of fire, every flap of its wings creates a dazzling flash of flames.
I like the alliteration they had going on there.
Flash of flames?
And flap. Every flap of its wings creates a dazzling flash of flames.
Pokemon Yellow says, a legendary bird Pokemon. As it flaps its blazing wings, even the night sky will turn red. Pokemon Gold says the legendary Pokemon scatters embers with every flap of its wings. It is a thrilling sight to behold. Pokemon Silver says the legendary bird Pokemon is said to bring early spring to the wintry lands it visits. Pokemon Crystal starts off very weird and just starts off with the sentence, legendary bird Pokemon.
It's not even a sentence, that's a sentence fragment.
Yeah. Legendary bird Pokemon. It is said to migrate from the south along with the spring. I don't know why they couldn't put the word A at the beginning of this and just say a legendary bird Pokemon that is said, but whatever. Ruby and Sapphire says, Moltres is a legendary bird Pokemon that has the ability to control fire. If this Pokemon is injured, it is said to dip its body in the molten magma of a volcano to burn and heal itself.
Wow.
Fire Red says, one of the legendary bird Pokemon. That's also a good way to start it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's also a sentence fragment, but it just sounds way better than Legendary bird Pokemon.
Well, honestly, couldn't you just change that period to a comma and this makes better sense?
Yeah.
One of the
Okay.
legendary bird Pokemon. Those who see it are overwhelmed by its orange wings that seem to be on fire. Seem to be. They are on fire.
They are literally fire. The thing's name is fire.
Pokemon Shield says there are stories of this Pokemon using its radiant flame cloaked wings to light up paths for those lost in the mountains.
So on one hand, it can suck your soul out, but on the other hand, it'll help you if you get lost in the mountains.
The Galarian version will suck your soul out.
Ah, okay. Okay.
So, which the next two are the Galarian version. So, we have a couple for those. Pokemon Sword says this Pokemon's sinister flame like aura will consume the spirit of any creature it hits. Victims become burned out shadows of themselves.
So basically, just don't ever go to Galar.
Yeah.
Looking for one of these things.
Pokemon Shield for the Galarian form says the sinister aura that blazes like molten fire around this Pokemon is what inspired the name Moltres. That was kind of a lame one to end on.
Yeah.
All right, then this is some really cool trivia. Usually we don't have cool trivia, and I don't tell trivia about Pokemon. Usually, when you go to Bulbapedia, the trivia is like, this is the fastest known grass type, and I usually leave those out unless there's something cool about like beta names and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's really cool. So Moltres and the other two legendary birds had Australian beetle species named after them: Benburum Articuno, Benburum Zapdos, and Benburum Moltres. The three species were first described in 2020 and were collectively named after the legendary birds to reflect their rarity.
Isn't it crazy when like people that grew up and were probably like 8 years old when Generation 1 came out, and now they're old enough to like discover rare species of things, and they're like the leading scientists in their field, and it's like, oh, what do you want to call these rare things? And they're like, let's name them after Pokemon.
Well, and I saw this a little bit. We're getting to the point where pretty soon we're going to have someone who could run for president that grew up playing Pokemon.
Which is insanity. Yeah. I mean, I would not be eligible to run for president until 2028 because I don't turn 35 until 2025.
I mean, I guess technically I could run next year. There we go. We're going to add ourselves to the ballot.
I think I have to be, I can't run. I think I could be, well, no, I don't think I could be in the cabinet either because I'd be in the line of succession.
No,
Just
no,
wait
no.
until 20.
We're going to run in 2028.
Oh, 2028. Perfect. Do you want to be president or do you want to be president or vice president?
I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll rock, paper, scissors.
Can we swap back and forth depending on the day?
They don't need to know what we're doing. Like,
yeah, no. I mean, it's not like president really does anything anyway. I mean, it's like you know how well you never really watched The Office, right?
No, I could never get into it.
So they call it the Peter Principle. How like it's people that are like in charge of everything that are like upper level management and stuff always just tend to be idiots. Like they're just morons that like can't do anything right. And they call it the Peter Principle because those people were good at the lower jobs, but they eventually got promoted up past like their skill set. So then when they got into the job that they have now, they're just idiots. And they're not good at it. That's why Michael Scott, he was a great salesman, but as a manager, he's terrible. Well, I feel like being president is like the the ultimate culmination of all that because when was the last time we actually had a good president in the history of this country? Abraham Lincoln?
Roosevelt.
Oh yeah, you're probably right.
Kennedy was pretty good too.
FDR, yeah, maybe. But I mean, still, that's like even if we could objectively say that Kennedy was the last good president,
that's 60 years.
That's 60 years ago. That's like twice our how long we've lived on Earth, roughly. So it's like, I don't know.
All right.
I forgot where I was going with it, but I was just saying. Well, no, I really forgot how we even arrived at this. Basically, anyone in charge of anything is really dumb, and
Josh and Jeff 2028.
And we're not even going by last names. It's just Josh and Jeff, J and J. I love the alliteration.
And that is our Who's That Pokemon segment on Moltres.
Back with Team Ash, Santa relights the flame, and Ash, Misty, and Brock carry the torch over to the Pokemon League as the theme song plays in the background.
Which is weird because it starts at like the second verse.
Yeah, it doesn't even start at the "I want to be the very best."
Yeah, which you think fit that part perfectly, but oh well. And also, let's just say this makes no sense because Misty and Brock aren't competitors, so they shouldn't be able to carry the torch.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up later. It's like, what another slap in the face to that guy.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said. I said also that was two more people that they just took their dreams away from them.
Yeah.
And this makes so in the Japanese version, I will say they don't ever mention this rule.
Yeah.
So it's just they just say it's a good honor, which again, then why is it going to these three? But whatever, I digress.
Team Ash goes to the Pokemon League village, and find Gary with his annoying voice and all of his concubines. Gary is a tool as usual and tells Ash that he's going to fail because he never studied his competition, which, I mean, to be fair to Gary, he's probably right. But he's still a tool, and his voice is really annoying. And I'm pretty sure he pays all those women to follow him around.
Something I found out is constantly in the Japanese version, Gary calls Ash number 4 because he will always be the 4th best person to leave Pallet Town on that day.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, because, 4 people left on that day. Although only 2 of them made it to the league, but Ash is still number 4 to Gary.
Yeah. Gary's such a douche. Team Ash are staying in a pretty nice Airbnb, but Ash can't sleep due to anxiety, and I feel that. Like I said earlier, I was up until 2 this morning, but that was less anxiety and more God of War. Ash goes for a walk to clear his head, and Misty comments that she thinks he's scared. Ash walks into the Pokemon League Stadium, which I can't believe that it's just open. Like, they don't lock it down. Like,
yeah,
you're gonna have a that's just asking for some domestic terrorism. Ash walks in to the stadium, and he doesn't know that Santa is watching him from afar. Which again, why is this dude up at all hours of the night, just like watching the stadium? Does he not want to pay for security? So he's like, oh, I'll do it myself.
That's what I was gonna say. He's security too.
That's what, so maybe it is true that the torch committee is just him because they can't hire any security because he's the only person on it. So Santa's up there just watching him, unsure if Ash is naughty or nice.
And while it's Ash, he goes into Ash's head, and Ash in his head is saying that he's going to win as long as he does the best he can. Which I liked what the Japanese version said better. In that version, he says, "This is where we're all going to battle. All I can do is fight the only way I know how."
Yeah, because obviously you can do the best you possibly can, but that doesn't mean you're going to win.
Yeah, so the Japanese is like, he understands that, it's going to be a tough battle, and I'm just going to do what I do, and that's fight, and that's how I got myself here.
Yeah. It's like, there's a quote from Star Trek: The Next Generation. I think Captain Picard says it's possible to make no. I'm paraphrasing, but it's possible to make no mistakes and still lose. Something to that effect. So that's what the Japanese version reminds me of. The English version is just Ash being delusional again. The next day, the opening ceremony begins with all the competitors walking in. Misty and Brock are in the stands, and like we said, that's pretty inconsistent since they said only competitors could carry the torch, and they aren't even competing.
Also, you can tell Mr. Good's show doesn't get a good salary because he has to sit in the stands with everyone else. He's sitting there with Misty and Brock. Like, they didn't even give him a VIP suite or anything.
The last torchbearer is taking the torch to the big torch in the center. I don't know what to call the big torch thing. I said torch 14 times in that sentence. What do you call the big one?
They call it the Central Torch.
Central Torch, thank you. They're taking it to the Central Torch when Team Rocket shows up in disguise and steals the flame. After lighting the flame in the Central Torch, they get in some huge grasshopper mech looking thing and put the whole massive Central Torch flame on their back. And I know what it sounds like when I try to explain it, but that's literally what happened.
Yeah, and Misty seems really confused here because Mr. Goodship goes, they're taking the torch, they're taking it to the Central Torch, which is while the person's running up the stairs, and Misty goes, where's the Central Torch? I'm like, I don't know, Misty. Maybe in the center?
Why don't you look in the center of everything, the giant bowl where they're about to stick this flame?
Also, when Team Rocket show up in their disguise, they ask the torchbearer to hand them the torch. And then Ash starts running up the stairs towards them, which is probably another instance where he should have been tackled by the police this episode.
Yeah, I noticed that was a strange transition. I feel like there should have been like a really short scene where he recognizes Team Rocket, because otherwise he's just running up and he's like, nobody gets to carry the torch but me.
Yeah. Like all it took was like not even like a 5-second scene. It cuts to Ash. He goes, oh, Team Rocket are going to steal the torch, and then starts running, and then it can cut to him halfway up.
Yeah, that did feel very strange to me. Pikachu attacks the mech, but it's ineffective. Bulbasaur's Razor Leaf attack only makes the bonfire bigger, and now the whole stadium gets to see Ash's stupidity on display. And that should honestly disqualify him. Like, yeah, let's throw a bunch of like dry leaves on the fire and see what happens.
Hey, but there are at least 100 trainers present, and none of them are stepping up to help Ash.
Very true. I mean, he's got cojones, but he doesn't have any brains.
Yeah. Well, like there's even like the camera pans out and you see the stadium from the top, and all those trainers that were on the field are gone.
So Ash taunts Team Rocket and tells them to take their best shot, and they're like, okay. And so they shoot the fire at him, which, I mean, I feel like this is attempted murder right here. Because they legit just like shot the huge central fireball at them. But they make like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and the fire does nothing. That was a biblical reference for those of you that didn't know. They got thrown in a fire and survived. It's like wizards in Harry Potter when they talk about being in the Salem witch trials, and they were like, the one got burned at the stake like 400 times because they like how the fire tickled them.
Yeah,
it's like that. Everyone is confused until the fire turns into Moltres, and now I'm confused because that doesn't make any sense.
So I don't think it was actually Moltres, but I think what they're going for, it's the spirit of the flame protecting Ash.
Okay. So maybe they said in the Pokédex entry that the flames are like lukewarm to the touch, so maybe it just felt look like a cozy little fire.
There you go. Also, as you said, could this be the most evil thing that Team Rocket have attempted to do? Like they almost killed him, or they could have.
It's either that or my very first episode, I'm pretty sure, with like the ponytail race,
where they
blew up the track. It's I mean, everyone on the show has to be an idiot when my favorite characters are the domestic terrorist. So Santa makes some cheesy speech about just whatever sounds cheesy. Do your best, everyone's a winner, that kind of thing. And everyone cheers, and then the episode ends here.
All right. And so what were your thoughts on the episode?
Dude, this whole episode was about carrying the torch from point A to point B, except points A and B were like a half a mile apart. I thought it was a terrible filler episode.
Honestly, I don't know. I like this episode, and it's not really filler because at least it moves the plot along. You get to learn a little bit about the Pokemon League. They just didn't explain it in a very good way.
I thought it was a terrible filler. I like how they built up like they finally made it to the Pokemon League, and then it's like, but have they really? Because now we got to carry a torch, and somehow Ash ends up carrying the torch, and then it ends after the opening ceremony.
Yeah, and they had to fill time with cutscene and music.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go to our question of this week. And now, as we mentioned before, um, we are recording the next episode as soon as we are done with this one. And so your questions will be read in 2 weeks' time.
Mm-hmm.
Or your answers will be. But the question we asked, and we will be asking a question too. So we'll have 2 weeks of questions to read in that episode. So our questions for this episode was, what is your opinion of the Olympics? Do you watch it? And what is your favorite sport to watch if you do watch it?
I mean, I'm pro Olympics, I guess. Yeah, the last Olympics that were on, I watched them. I like the high diving.
Yeah, I
That
think the high diving's cool too.
that one's always entertaining to watch. And
Gymnastics.
gymnastics is awesome. Luge is really cool. I don't know. I generally like watching all of them because it's like the greatest athletes in the world.
Yeah. And sometimes I don't get around to watching like them compete, but I do like to watch even just the opening ceremonies.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I had not, because I've never seen, like, I'd never seen this episode. I never got this far in the show. I did not even think that they were going to treat the Pokemon League like the Olympics. I thought it was going to be more like the World Series or something like that, or like the
Okay.
Super Bowl. But it makes sense that it's the Olympics, so I think it's cool that it's
Yeah.
analogous to that.
And in 2 weeks' time, we'll learn about how the Pokemon League competition is set up. Because next week we are going to be airing our Christmas episode. And so don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at Pokemon Snapshot or send us an email at thepokemonsnapshot@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page, so look us up there as well. Also, leave us a rating on your listening app of your choosing so other Pokemon fans such as yourself can find the podcast. All right, Josh, do you have anything else to add?
I got nothing. I'll see you folks in 2 weeks.
All right. Well,
Wait, no.
no,
No.
you'll see them. Well, they'll hear you next week. It's just we're recording this in 5 minutes.
Now I've confused myself. I don't time is not linear. I don't know what's happening.
Please join us next time when we will be watching the Pokemon Chronicles episode Pikachu's Winter Vacation, Christmas Night, and Kanga Gangs.